Hello, Graham here from Arion Games, and in this short video I'm going to be talking about Maelstrom Domesday, the follow-up to the original Maelstrom RPG that I talked about in the last video. So after we'd published it and it was selling well and we'd published several supplements to try and refine the system a little bit, what I thought was that it really needed a rewrite. So I got in touch with Alex Scott, the original author, and said, this is what I'd like to do, and he said, yeah, fine. He said, but he said, I don't want you to rewrite it. He said, I want the original game to stand on its own, and I'm fine with that. So I then thought about, well, what can I do with it? And it occurred to me it'd be absolutely perfect for an idea that I'd had for many, many years in my head, which is an early medieval game set in about 1086 or so, soon after the Norman conquest of England. And I had written versions of this for various rule sets, or half-written versions of this for various rule sets over the years, but it had never quite found a home. Nothing ever felt quite right. Until it occurred to me that Maelstrom would be the perfect rule set for that. So I set about converting my previous work and writing new stuff to fit the Maelstrom rule set, and it seemed to drop into place brilliantly. Now, one thing that people had criticised the original game for was, what do you do with this game? The character creation rules are great, the game rules are good, but what do you do with it? What does a baker and a lawyer and a mercenary and a beggar and a sailor do? What do they do when they're roaming around together? Well, that's always been one of the stumbling blocks. If you have a loose game, a toolkit game like Advanced Fighting Fantasy, you need to know what you can do with it, what the characters do, what sort of adventures the characters have. And so in Maelstrom Domesday I went for a highly specific game. Whereas Advanced Fighting Fantasy and Stellar Adventures are toolkits, Maelstrom Domesday is very, very specific. It's set in 1086 in North Yorkshire, and the characters are agents of a Norman baron, and their job is to investigate strange happenings in the countryside, in the villages, the towns, and even the city of York, on behalf of this Norman patron. So character creation in Maelstrom Domesday I'm going to come back to. It's a life path system, and the idea is it generates characters that feel real. Characters that feel like they've had a life, they've got a background, they've got a family, they've got connections, they've had events. Now these might be good events, they might be bad events. And I know that some people are not so keen on life path character creation, especially if it's random. This is random, pretty much all of it. What it means is you can end up with a character that is fantastic, has had a really lucky life, or a character who you look at and think, oh, this is awful, they've had a terrible life. But in the context of Maelstrom Domesday, that doesn't matter. Because when it comes down to it, Domesday is about what the characters' personalities are, how they act, rather than what skills they have and what stats they have. Now, these are obviously important, but they're not the key conceit here. So, we did a Kickstarter for Maelstrom Domesday. It did very, 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 very well. And we produced some supplements that I'm going to come to in the next video. But Domesday, in a way, is one of my favourite games I've ever written. It's a very, very singular game. It's unlike many other games that are out there. There are other medieval set games, there are other investigative games, supernatural investigative games, but none of them quite has the feel of Domesday. You either have the mythos-based games where you're opposing some great world-shattering alien conspiracy, or they are things like where you're very powerful characters, like Ars Magica. In Domesday, it's a very, very small focus, and I think that's important, because in Domesday, your character is part of their world. It's part of the village they live in, the town, the city they live in. And being a peasant farmer, being a shepherd, being a beggar, in Domesday is important. So the characters in Domesday are not these great heroes who are going to save the kingdom. They are normal people who are going to get good at what they do, and then they're going to die of old age. And then they're going to be succeeded by their children or by other characters. Now, the next one we'll talk about the supplements we did. But recently, at the end of last year, earlier this year, we did a Kickstarter for a big campaign for Domesday. And this really plays into the strengths of Domesday. It's going to be 103 years when it's complete. And it will allow the characters to start off inexperienced or experienced, to grow old, die or retire, be succeeded by their children or other characters. They in turn will become experienced, grow old, die and retire, and be replaced, potentially 2-3 times. And so it's going to tell the story of a group of characters, their families and their descendants over more than 100 years. But at the same time, they're not saving the kingdom, they're not saving the world. They are saving their little area. It is about the characters and what they do, and in a way, not the bigger world. So I'm going to leave it there, but I will come back to Domesday in the next couple to talk about the supplements and the follow-up games, and indeed the campaign. And then I will also come back to this again in future videos talking about specifics like character creation, like magic, setting, and so on. Thank you very much for listening. Until next time, happy gaming.